Hey everybody, my name is Pokemon Some of you might recognize me as a writer for the GBA, some of you might recognize me from the episodes of Around the Rhyhorn that I appeared. Basically, this video is going to act as kind of an extension to my application to the GBA D-League. If you don't know what that is, go to the GBA channel, they have a whole video on it, they'll explain everything, how to get in, potentially. Essentially, this battle is between me and my friend and fellow writer Dallasboi1992. Basically, I pretended to be the coach of the St. Louis Rampardos, and Dallas pretended to be the coach of the Pittsburgh Pirattatas. And we did a GBA-style match. We took each other's rosters, and we planned for their teams, and here we go. We planned for each other's team, and we decided to have a battle. So right here, looking at his team, I noticed that Nidoqueen is something that can easily tear his entire team apart. You know, it has potentially Crunch for the Slowking, it has Sludge Wave for the Azumarill, Ice Beam for Tornadus, Earth Power for Heatran, Flamethrower and Ice Beam for the Amoonguss. It can take on his entire team. Even the Pokemon he didn't bring, it was good against. It was just a huge threat against Tup's team. But the only problem with it is it's too slow to really be a safe offensive mon, I guess you could say. I don't know if that makes sense, but essentially it's a little bit too slow. You know, Tornadus outspeeds it, Alakazam can outspeed it and kill it, Heatran could be running max speed and outspeed it. So the way I decided to fix that was with Rock Polish, Baton Pass, Mew, which is also carrying Nasty Plow so that I can OHKO pretty much everything on his team. And that was my game plan basically. Get up to +2 speed or +2 special attack depending on the situation, maybe both, best case scenario, switch into Nidoqueen and destroy everything on his team. Next up I have Dan's Mega Sableye. I'm running Will-O-Wisp, Sucker Punch, Recover, and Ice Punch because I really thought he was going to bring Salamence. Obviously he didn't, but you know, that was just an extra precaution. Rotom Wash is specially defensive, meant to take on the Tornadus and the Heatran primarily, as well as a little bit of the Mega Alakazam. It's running Hydro Pump, Volt Switch, Will-O-Wisp, and actually HP Ice, because once again I was very afraid of the Salamence. You know, if that thing gets up to +1, it could be a very big threat to my team. I don't have a Dragon Resist. Next up, I brought a Choice Scarfed Terrakion with Stealth Rocks, just because I can get rocks up against most things, or well, not most things, but I can get rocks up against Tornadus, maybe Heatran, and I ran Choice Scarf just to make sure that I outsped A, his Mega Alakazam, and B, his Tornadus. And you'll see that come into play later, and also I'm running Stealth Rocks. Not only because I want rocks, but to also bluff that I'm not Scarfed. And next up we have a Volcarona with the berry that resists water. I'm not entirely sure the name of it, but that's just so that I can live a Aqua Jet from Azumarill at a decent amount of HP, and I can potentially knock it out with a +1 Giga Drain. Alright, so let's get into the match. I'm going to lead off with my Mew, as he leads off with his Tornadus, which is great because I know I can take a U-turn, I can take a knockoff, and I can start setting up right off the bat. And as you're going to see, right here I go for the Rock Polish, and I'm not afraid of the Roar from this Heatran because I have a Mega Sableye, which obviously with Magic Bounce does not allow Roar to hit it, so I didn't think Dallas would want to waste a move slot. And an even better thing happens right here as he goes for the Protect, probably scouting for the Earth Power, or Earthquake, as I get to Baton Pass out into my Nidoqueen, which means that I'm going to kill something. So he decides to switch out into his Tornadus to take the Earth Power, and then decides to double out into Slowking to take the Ice Beam, which is okay because even an Assault Vest Slowking is going to take over half from this Life Orb Sludge Wave. And he's unable to kill me with the Scald, meaning I get to finish him off with the Earth Power, you know, just in case he decided to double out into Heatran. And here his Azumarill is forced to go for the Aqua Jet, so I have a pretty safe switch-in into Rotom Wash, which then allows me to keep up my offensive momentum and go for a Volt Switch, since he doesn't have an electric immunity. So I'm going to Volt Switch onto the Amoonguss, and I'm going to go out into my Volcarona, and I know he's going to be hesitant to go into his Heatran because I could have HP Ground. I should, because Heatran completely walled me otherwise, but I don't. But here I predict him to go into Heatran. So I go out into my Terrakion, and I could close combat, but I know he's going to switch out, so I decide to get up my rocks, which are there to stay because he doesn't have hazard removal. So here I'm going to let my Sableye take a Spore. It's not doing too much this match, and because I haven't Mega Evolved, I'm not going to be able to bounce back the Spore or anything. So here I'm going to, be asleep for my first turn, and then thankfully I'm able to wake up as he goes for a sub, which means I can break the sub with an Ice Punch. And I'm sure he's packing the Dazzling Gleam, but I decided not to go for the Sucker Punch. I really should have. This Alakazam would be dead, but it's not the worst thing in the world. And here, here's when I go for the Sucker Punch, which is unfortunate because he switches out into a Azumarill, and I don't have a switch into this, so I just stay in and go for the Will-O-Wisp as I get it off, but he eats his Lumberry, which I really should have expected because even in the episode of HER where we were going over Pirattatas versus Rampardos, he said Lumberry Azumarill is going to work really well, but that's alright. I sack my Nidoqueen to get a free switch into Rotom, which again allows me to get a free Volt Switch. And here I decide I'm going to go right back out into my Mew, and I think he could have Clear Smog, so instead of going to set up, I just go right for a Psychic, which does a lot to this Amoonguss, and he gets off a Giga Drain, which doesn't do too much damage. I am mostly specially defensive, but I know he's going to want this Amoonguss around for my Terrakion, so I predict the switch into, anything else, and I decide to go for a Nasty Plot, which is great because this allows me to Baton Pass into my Rotom Wash, which you'll see in 1 second is a very big threat to his team now. Nothing can knock me out, it can do a lot of damage to his whole team, and he ends up going for the Rock Slide, probably predicting my Volcarona, which, not a bad play because I was considering it, but again, I didn't have HP Ground, so I had no way to break through his Heatran. So I end up just going for the Hydro Pump. It's my best play. It'll 2-hit KO anything that he decides to switch in, including the Amoonguss, which takes a lot. And at that range of HP, I don't have to risk the miss. I can just go for an HP Ice. And I'm going to knock out the Amoonguss, which is great because that leaves a lot for my Terrakion. Here he's going to go into his Mega Alakazam, but a Psyshock is not going to be able to kill me. It's only going to do about half, and after leftovers, I'm going to still remain over half of my HP. And so here, this is where I really wish I had Thunderbolt, because I'm forced to go for the Volt Switch to knock it out, which means I'm going to lose my +2 on the next switch in, but it's okay, because I win the game with Terrakion at this point. He's going to go into Tornadus, and I can knock it out with a Stone Edge, except for the part where he has a Charty Berry, which is kind of bad because it allows him to get off an Iron Tail, which does a lot to my Terrakion, but that's okay because now with Rocks up, he does not have a switch into close combat. So I decide I'm going to sack off my Mew. I'm just going to go into it, let it die to whatever attack Tornadus wants to go to, or if he decides to switch out into Heatran. So I just go for the Psychic, I let it die to the Lava Plume, and then I just go right back out into my Terrakion, and I click Close Combat. It's going to knock out the Tornadus when it comes back in. I'm Scarfed, so I'm definitely going to outspeed it. I'm going to be able to knock out this Heatran unless it's max physical defense. So right here, as you'll see, I easily do 20% to this Tornadus. It had no chance to live. And after that, he's going to go right out into his Heatran, and he's not going to bother protecting because he knows he can't live anyway. So I'm going to knock out the Heatran, and that's going to be a good match, a good 4-0 win in my favor. Definitely check out Dallasboi. His YouTube and his Twitter are going to be in the description. And thank you to everybody watching, and if there are anybody from the GBA watching who are deciding on who gets put into the D-League, I'm not saying, I'm not going to be salty if you don't let me in. I understand there are a lot of people applying. There are a lot of very qualified people that you want to add. But this is kind of a demonstration of how I might plan for a GBA match, I want to show that I have at least a little bit of a capability to plan properly and to battle properly. So, I would, well, not that I would say I would, but if you would consider me, if you take this video, or if you watch this video, and you're still considering, maybe consider me? Pulse? Liz? But anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.